Good morning. Just thought it might be helpful today to have a little chat a bit more about contemplation and I guess the art of being still. I was talking yesterday about an experience that I had probably 20 years ago or so, I suppose it was, where for the very first time I started to become comfortable with silence and quiet. For my whole life growing up, I always had to drown out the voice in my head. I think I always had the radio going, music going. I was always uncomfortable if I was just out, say, in nature by myself. I had to have people around me all the time. I just didn't feel comfortable with myself, I guess. And yeah, that was kind of a curse, really, to be honest. It's, when you're not comfortable with yourself, where do you go? Where do you run, basically? And that's what I did, a lot of running, I guess, particularly growing up. Running to, parties and places and pubs and, wherever there was people to try and drown out the noise of my own mind. I guess that maybe it was the voice that was telling me I wasn't good enough, or maybe I had nothing to offer. Maybe life wasn't worth living. I don't know. There was just, whatever the voice was, but the silence was scary, very scary. So the experience was that I was walking on the beach one day, and one night actually it was, and I was like, just sort of praying back then, the only way I knew how, which was just talking and sort of hoping that God was listening, but never really hearing anything back. And then I hear this little voice inside myself, not an audible sound, but kind of like the voice in my head, but it was different. And it said to me very, very clearly, "Do not be afraid of the silence. I am in the silence." And I knew right then and there that was the Spirit of God kind of talking to me and communicating in a mystical way, if you like, and basically sharing with me that it was okay to stop now, stop the running, stop the noise, that the constant chattering. Just stop and just let it sort of come to a still, if you like, come to a standstill. And having said that, that was like an initiation into silence, an initiation into some sort of a contemplation state. It's now 20 years down the track. I'm 57. And have I mastered that? Not by a long shot. The chatter continues, the ability to be still. My goodness, it's not easy at all. I've headed out practically, at least 5 mornings a week to sort of pursue this quiet time for 20 years, at least headed out into the beach or out into the property or somewhere just to try and get some stillness. But, honestly, if I look back, I'd say probably 80% of those times I was still in my head. I wasn't living in the now, in the present. I wasn't, present with myself. I wasn't present with what was going on around me. And I was kind of just racing to the next thing, even though my mind and my desire was to be still and to find peace within, really a deep, transcendent-like peace. Could I find that within? Yes. And say 20% of those times, those mornings particularly, I would find that. I'd be walking on the beach and there was just these beautiful, still spots where you could just stop and just breathe and be okay for a moment. I'd be talking with the Spirit, communicating, and He's revealing things to me and sharing just how much I'm loved and how much I'm accepted. And I think this has gone a long way to being okay in those quiet spaces. So the voices now that used to rise up so often, they're very, very dull. And they don't have the say they once did. So now I'm so much more comfortable with being on my own, so much more comfortable with the silence, knowing that there's this very benevolent presence there with me, this very loving presence in the silence with me, that I'm not alone. I always had this great fear of being alone. Loneliness was a constant companion as I grew up and well into my 30s and 40s. I still felt this deep loneliness. I've had a family, I've had a beautiful family, beautiful wife, 3 kids, we're all together still, but this loneliness of soul still continues. It's kind of a yearning for something deeper and richer, and it sort of seems like it's the mystical journey. The more I talk with people that are into this stuff, those that are mystics themselves will share similar thoughts, that we're bound for something deeper, something richer, something far more transcendent than just this worldly life that we live. And so we're dissatisfied, and we find it very hard to settle here, in a sense, into just what is on your everyday, your work, your things you've got to get done. So stillness, contemplation. I've been listening to a lot of Richard Rohr of recent months in particular, and he keeps talking about the contemplative life that he's lived, the contemplative life of people like Thomas Merton and others who have sort of led the way in this sort of field, who have, I guess, shown us that living a life with God is not about activity as such, it's not necessarily only about activity. Is good, nothing wrong with activity, but if that becomes our basis, we burn out so quickly. We need the contemplative side of our life, the contemplative side, to, I guess, pull us down into the deeper parts of ourself, into deeper spirit, into places of rest for our soul. And in those places, oh my goodness, what a difference, what a contrast. As we move into those places, as I move there, I tell you, I can't, words really don't grasp it, but the stillness that you feel, the peace that is in those places when I find rest. It doesn't matter where I am when I'm doing that. If I can find that place, that's, I guess, just centers me down and just helps me to be okay with being me. It helps me to have a bigger picture of the future. It helps me to see. Because in those moments of stillness, I realise that all this running around that I've been doing and all this activity stuff often doesn't come out as much, to be honest. Like you're working and doing this and that and the other, but it gets money and it does this, and you work with people and things happen. But it's that deeper place within us that, we go down into there. That's where the action is. That's where the rest of our life can flow out of. At least for me, that's where the rest of my life can flow out. Maybe I'm different than some. I'm sure I am. Never quite fit in too many places, but I guess this contemplative life is something to be sought after, something to be known, so we can both know ourselves in that place better. As we still those voices, we understand who we really are. We understand how loved we are, how accepted we are as we are right then and there, regardless of any performance, regardless of anything that we can or cannot do. We're accepted in the beloved, 100% accepted. Nothing we can do can separate us from that place, for we're, I guess, firmly rooted in. And what a beautiful feeling and sense that is, to know how rooted we are in, how deeply entrenched we are in the larger story of God, creation, ourselves, the part that we play in all of that. What a beautiful thing it is. Contemplation. And hey, look, I'm blessed here. Look at this. How incredible is this place to come and contemplate. I'm out on a little island here. This is an island in the middle of the river. Check it out. How cool is that? It's mid-tide. The tide's coming in. I'm on the paddleboard. Got the paddleboard. Where is the paddleboard? Over here somewhere. Just in the background there. And boy, oh boy, there, what a spot. It's unbelievable here. I'm very blessed to be able to come out here. And yet, like I said, even here, at times I find it difficult to get into that space. But to keep my spirit clear, to enable myself to function fully as a human, to be the person that I'm created to be, oh man, I need this time. Anyway, thanks for listening. Hope you have a great day.